up to the hype. He has turned down every single documentary project looking closely at the details of his career. Until now.
People are going to look at everything you did because of the hype surrounding your arrival and what they think you can be.
I'm Grant Wall, and this is American Prodigy, Freddie Adu, from Blue Wire Podcasts.
What's up, guys? This is the Uncontested Podcast, covering the Oklahoma City Thunder. This podcast is ran by Jacob, Nick, Justin, Tayler, and Kamiar. Listen to future episodes on your favorite podcast streaming service like iTunes or Spotify. And don't forget to leave a 5-star rating.
This is Luthor. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up? Welcome to the Uncontested Podcast. We're part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and the official podcast of BoomtownHoops.com. Coming at you both podcast version and live on YouTube and Periscope on Twitter.com. I'm your host for the evening, Jacob Niffen. I've got Tayler Peterson along with me.
F it, we'll do it live.
No better phrase in the world. We've got Nick Crane.
Cowboys can't lose when they're on bye week. Gotta love Sundays like this.
We've got Kamiar Maramian.
Yeah, you know, not everybody's NFL team is 9-0. And did you guys participate in the American holiday of recycling?
Hey, I have a recycling bin at the new house. I fill that thing up all the time, man.
Do you?
We've been
what?
recycling.
We also have, last but not least, this is the first time I think all five of us have been on a pod in a long time. We've got Justin Peabody in the house.
Hello, everybody. I'm just glad we're live streaming this so that everyone can see Kamiar's vest.
You guys like it?
It's nice.
Wait! I have something for this.
Too many
Keep
times.
that on.
Show. Boom. Captain.
What are you trying to say?
I like what's under the vest more.
I work out.
My man is, Kamiar, sometimes you make the joke that you look like a Persian nightclub owner with a mustache.
Yeah.
The vest is just finalizing the look.
It's
really
the
good.
bill.
It's really good.
Yes, it is.
I feel
incredible.
like your nightclub would be known for not always following the letter of the law. Do you think that'd be accurate?
Oh no, this asshole has tax evasion written all over.
Yeah. Similar to many barbershops, our nightclub is just a front for smuggling drugs and getting a lot more money.
Probably have good wings, though.
Yeah, really good wings, especially down in Orlando.
Lou Will Lemon Pepper.
Mhm.
Oh, they were in Atlanta, I thought.
So I'm looking at this.
I
We
don't
have
know.
43 live on Periscope right now and 4 on YouTube.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Somebody wants us to fire James Franklin.
I agree.
Works for me.
Hey, before we dive in, because we have a ton of NBA stuff to get into, guys, want to take a quick moment. You saw it at the start of the show if you're watching live. If you're on the podcast version, I'm going to explain it out to you real quick. We are having a live virtual draft party Wednesday night. We will go live at 5:40 p.m. on draft night. That's about 20 minutes before the draft officially kicks off. We're going to break down everything that happens this week and then follow you guys through the first round of the NBA draft. We're going to live react to all the picks, see where the Thunder end up. We got a lot of giveaways too. So if you join right at 6 o'clock, we're going to drop a trivia question, a Thunder draft trivia question. Whoever gets that trivia question right in the chat first, we're going to get your info. We're going to call you in pizza and wings for draft night.
I had wings tonight. Wingstop.
Hey,
There you go.
Wingstop's the GOAT.
yes,
Mhm.
I totally agree. We are also going to do 2 giveaways on our mock draft contest. If you get the closest pick on the Thunder's draft selection, you're going to win an OKC Thunder draft hat. And if your mock draft scores the highest, if you do the best on your mock draft, we are buying you a custom OKC Thunder jersey
Come on.
of the new rookie or rookies.
Come on.
That Poku jersey's going to look real nice.
So you can find all of this information at _uncontested on Twitter.com. The app we're using for the mock draft contest is called Mock Out instead of Knockout.
Get it?
So make sure you go get the Mock Out app, and then you can find our link to our contest on Twitter.com, and we will retweet it again tomorrow. You can make your own mock draft and have a chance to win some cool prizes. We've got guests coming on the show. It's going to be good stuff.
Yes. Get that
So-
LaMelo Ball jersey ready.
Yeah, there you go. No, it's going to say Avdia on the back. You heard it here
Dude,
first,
Come
folks.
on.
If that happens, Jacob will buy one for the giveaway and one for himself.
Right.
Oh, and
Maybe
I'll buy
more
one
than
for
one.
my dog and one for my fiance. I'll buy one for each of you guys.
Got to buy one for Nick so that he can walk the
Yeah.
streets and pretend that he is Denny Advia.
Yeah, I could have everybody thinking I'm him. I could even dress up as him for Halloween. I think I'm already
There you go.
decided in my
There you
outfit
go.
You're
next
like the
year.
Klay Thompson guy.
If that
Yes,
happens, we need to get you dressed up like him and just go walk around Oklahoma City and pretend that you are him and see what happens.
TMZ everywhere. Wait, does TMZ
Yes.
exist in Oklahoma?
I don't know, but
I mean-
sure.
It could. It could.
All right, guys. Well, let's dive into this. We woke up, at least I woke up this morning because I woke up late, to some Woj bombs.
Yeah.
My man is like the United States in the Middle East, just dropping them everywhere.
These are
And
more
with-
pleasant, though.
Ending with Dennis Schroder has been traded. Well, he technically hasn't been traded, but the agreement
much.
is
Been
in
agreed
place.
to in principle.
Yes, the agreement is in place. Everything is good to go. The trade window opens at 11 a.m. tomorrow on Monday, albeit the Schroder trade cannot go into effect until after the draft. It's Dennis Schroder to the Los Angeles Lakers for Danny Green and the 28th pick in the 2020 draft. Before we break down this trade, guys, I wanted to take a quick moment and give an ode to Dennis Schroder.
Oh,
Let's roundtable this real quick. Give us
Schrody.
the Schrody. Give us your favorite Dennis Schroder memory in Oklahoma City.
Dennis Schroder
Oh, that's so true. That might be even like
rings in
amongst
my
everything
head.
he did on the court. It might just be how excited the OKC announcer got every time he got to say his name. To Justin's point, Schroder.
Schroder.
Every time.
I think an underrated Schroeder moment, because I think there's some obvious ones that stand out, but an underrated Schroeder moment is when they're playing the Spurs and he starts trash talking. I can't remember who was on him now, but he's basically like calling out exactly what he's going to do. And he fakes really hard to the left and puts the defender on skates and comes
That
back and just
smile.
starts
After
cracking
he
up.
pointed. Yep.
So good. And
That's
that's,
a
the
good
kind
one.
of stuff that if he goes to the Lakers, that's going to be on Bleacher Report every single night next
Oh,
season,
yeah.
unlike the
Dennis
last
Schroder,
two
6 man of the
seasons.
year. I'm putting my bets in on Bet Online right now.
Right?
I love it. Nick, favorite Dennis Schroder memory in Oklahoma City?
I'm gonna go a little different route. I'm not gonna go with an actual like moment. I'm just gonna say kind of an aggregate of just his reactions to things when he's on the bench. Just the hype that he brings. Even though he was, over the past couple years, he was one of the top 5 best players at any given moment that he was on the team. He spent a little bit of time on the bench to start games, and he always had that positive attitude and that smile and hyped up the bench and the crowd, and that's just what I'm gonna remember him as.
Taylor, what do you got?
I think the obvious one that we haven't mentioned yet is the Hail Mary from last season. And that was fun for me because I had the post-game podcast. So I got to rip the audio from Hail Mary by Tupac and play it to start the podcast.
Play it through your phone into your microphone?
Yes. And ever since then, it messed up my audio up until 2 weeks ago.
Worth it.
Everything's
though.
fine.
Worth it.
Everything's fine. Worth it. That's right.
Kamiar,
then
what do you got?
I'm pointing to the clock, and there's
Yes, that picture is iconic.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, the moment that I've got is when Shea scored a 20-10, and Schroeder came up behind him and dumped the water on his head and told him
It's
it was
so effing tough,
so
bro.
effing tough, bro. So effing tough, bro.
2010?
Yeah,
That's so fucking
that was
tough,
really good.
bro.
And then, of course, I really liked what he had to say before the season and during the season. He's like, I love Russ, but because basically saying Russ would hijack the offense. So that was also a really, really nice thing from Dennis before he the purple and gold.
Yep. Dang, you guys took all the good ones. So I'll go with the time he tried to fight Deontay Burton in the locker room.
Also a good memory, though.
Our
I
own
can
Nick
say
Rain.
I was outside of the locker room for that one.
I
was-
forgot about that.
It was
There's, voices
interesting.
come in and
Yeah,
out.
it was a lot of screaming and
heard a metal chair get smashed over someone's head.
typically in the locker room within 10 minutes of the game ending, and that one we were all outside what's going on in there? So, but hey, they rattle off some wins after that. Sometimes
they
that
did.
locker room commotion can be for the best.
That's all
Yep.
you need. What about the steal at the end of that Celtics game?
That's a good one.
Right before the season got called off. I feel like the Thunder were, flying so high right then, and then pandemics and stuff.
Yeah. That was a good one though. That was ripping Kemba Walker to win the game. Good stuff. And then not winning Sixth Man of the Year.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
All right, so Danny Green, pick 28, coming back to the Thunder. I think we're all pretty much in agreement that Danny Green, at this point in a rebuild, does not belong on the Thunder. Just doesn't make sense. He made sense 3 years ago. He doesn't make sense now. Where are some possible destinations where the Thunder might end up trading Danny Green to? Do you think this deal ends up becoming a 3-team deal before we're all said and done? Do you think Danny Green gets traded a week or two down the line? Is he a trade deadline kind of guy? So when do you think the Thunder are going to look to flip Danny Green? Because I think we're all in agreement they will.
Well,
where's he going to go?
Here's something kind of funny. Kevin O'Connor tweets after Woj makes his announcement this morning saying that Milwaukee actually had been pursuing a Dennis Schroder trade prior to the Thunder apparently, agreeing to this trade with the Lakers. And so, and they're trying to get off Bledsoe. So, and then also Wes Matthews, apparently the Lakers are interested in him. And he just, right before we started recording this podcast, just declined his player option and is looking to get paid in free agency. So it's a little more complicated now that Wes Matthews opted out. But if Wes was already going to the Lakers, I could totally see a situation. It makes sense where you do a 3-team trade where the Lakers get Schroeder, Wes Matthews, Milwaukee gets Danny Green, and then you just find salary filler in between. Again, it's a little more complicated now that Wes Matthews decided to opt out of this final year and just enter unrestricted free agency. But nevertheless, it would have been kind of fun. But I just found it interesting. I just wanted to mention that apparently, according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, OKC was in pretty deep trade discussions this past week for Dennis Schroder with Milwaukee.
Would you think it was possible to somehow sign and trade Gallo to the Heat while also sending Danny Green to the Heat? I don't even know if the Heat would be interested in Danny Green, considering who they have coming back. There's a lot of money on it too. But I'm trying to think of where he would fit, who would really need him, and who would use him. I feel like Danny Green at this point in his career is probably more serviceable than Andre Iguodala. I don't like Andre Iguodala. I didn't really like his performance last year, even though he wasn't really performing or working out with the Grizz. So I can't really think of anybody. Sean says the Mavs, and that might be intriguing, but I don't really know about.
He's not white though, so probably not the Mavs.
True. What about a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who are really, really high on Joe Harris?
That's what I was gonna say.
He's going to be a free agent, and they've made it clear that Joe Harris is one of their top priorities this summer, or not summer. It's so weird to say that. This winter, off season is to get him re-signed. And if for some reason they can't, or trading for a guy like Danny Green and flipping some money is an easier way to get shooting and obviously defense as well, I think that could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say Brooklyn as well, specifically because I think that it's going to be partly about what Oklahoma City can get in return. And Brooklyn has a lot of assets to offer. I think we've spent most of the day today talking about some of them in returns for James Harden. But I think that some of those could be intriguing to Oklahoma City, whether that's purely, draft capital or whether that's a draft pick and a guy. I think that remains to be seen. But I think Brooklyn has some stuff that could get Sam Presti to pick up the phone.
Even a guy like Tarian Prince, who was rumored to be a Thunder guy at the deadline a couple of seasons ago, still, he's not the 21, 22-year-old, but he's kind of a mid-20s guy. The salary's fairly close. If you just want to flip the timeline a little bit and get a guy in his mid-20s for a guy like Danny Green that's 32 or 33, it's better than a sidestep.
Hey, so Sean on Twitter, Periscope, at Sean03199 asked about the Celtics. What do you guys think about the Celtics for Danny Green?
The salary matching is difficult there because the Celtics have massive contracts like Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. And then after that, it's a lot of small contracts. The only middling one that's about that Danny Green range is Marcus Smart, and there's no way in hell they do that. I was just looking, though. The Nets, I think, are an interesting one. Yeah. And like you mentioned, Nick, Tarian Prince, you can line that up pretty evenly. Do a Tarian Prince swap. You're taking on an extra year with Tarian Prince. in return for the expiring of Danny Green, and then have the Nets toss you the 19th overall pick in the 2020 draft. And that's just another bullet in the clip for Presti to use to trade up on Wednesday night.
Would you do, just to dig into the rabbit hole a bit further, would you do Danny Green and that 28 pick for Prince in 19? So you're giving up a pick, but you're also moving up.
If that's what you had to do to get pick 19, I'd be interested. But I think with taking on the extra money, it would make sense that you should be able to get that pick without a pick swap.
I just think it's tough with, I mean, obviously the Nets are interested in James Harden, and they're going to have to think long and hard before they give up any guy that's of value and has a big contract. Right. But, you know, if that train comes to an end, maybe they're more willing to give up assets. So it's probably harder for them to even do a trade like this at the moment.
So Colton Ivy Davis says Romeo Langford, Carson Edwards, and Enos for Green. It's interesting.
That could work. Yeah,
guys back in the trade.
I love the way you say Enos.
Enos
the penis.
Gets me every time.
Never forget when he was traded to OKC. Somebody said, "Oh no, we got penis cancer." I'll never forget that day. That was a great day because we all thought we were getting Jarrett Jack and Brooke Lopez.
Oh, yeah.
And the next thing you know is Enes Kanter and
from Utah.
Oh, who was the white guy?
Kyle Singler.
Silva.
The white guy that was also from Utah.
Oh boy,
why can't I remember this?
That we brought in the Enes Kanter trade?
Yes. He's got like a K in his name or something like that.
I have no clue.
Not three of them. Not three of them.
I hate you.
He was like a dad kind of dude. Okay, so Steve Novak.
Novak.
I'm not crazy. There it is. White guy with a K.
With a K in his name.
Look at me. Look at me go.
Remember Enes Kanter tweeted that picture of Rudy Gay's locker in Oklahoma City, and then we ended up getting Melo instead.
Free agency.
Amazing.
Man, gotta love Ennis. You gotta love Ennis. All right. So my next question for you guys as part of this trade. That was weird. Kamiar and Nick both looked left at the same time. And I was like, what are you guys looking at? But I realized you are literally like 300 miles away. So you're not looking at the same thing. The Thunder get pick 28 in this deal, which speaking of, Tayler, you had mentioned Kevin O'Connor's report that Milwaukee was engaged in conversations with Thunder for Dennis Schroder. I think that probably came down to, and this is pure speculation, but if the Thunder got Danny Green and pick 28 from the Lakers, I'm assuming the offer from Milwaukee was Eric Bledsoe and pick 24.
Right.
The difference is Eric Bledsoe has 3 more years left on his deal, and the Thunder didn't want long-term salary. So you fall back 4 spots expiring, and you get the expiring contract.
Right.
Will the pick at number 28 on Wednesday, is the player whose name is announced at pick 28, is that player coming to Oklahoma City? Or do you think that pick is getting packaged and the Thunder are moving up the draft board?
I think it's getting packaged, but that's something that we probably need to mention, Jacob. Like you were inferring, is that, you know, because of the Stepien rule with the Lakers, they can't technically trade that pick to OKC prior to the draft. They're going to have to make that selection on OKC's behalf. Now, OKC could tell the Lakers to select a player on, maybe, let's just use the Phoenix Suns as an example, on their behalf with the pick 28. But that trade wouldn't be able to go through until after the draft.
Definitely. And you can do that. You can, the Thunder can trade that pick even though they don't own it right now. And then just have the Lakers pick for
like
whatever.
Said, in principle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, that sounds so messy as far as.
That's what I was going to say.
Like you try to coordinate with the team. You're like, hey, we want to move up to spot 20. You choose this player. We'll choose this player. And then we're going to tell the Lakers to choose this player with hopes that everybody is still on the board. I don't know how that works, especially because like of the Stepien rule. If there was no Stepien rule, we wouldn't have any issues.
Yeah.
Well, it's really not different. It's just that like
it feels so messy to me.
The name on the board drafting is different, but in reality,
the hat they put on.
Right. It's the same team making that pick. It's just a little messier in our heads, but in reality, it's no different than it being an actual deal that's already been done.
What's going to be interesting is I don't know, maybe more than other years, I think we're going to see a lot more movement on draft night. And I mean, who was the report a couple nights ago that said basically every team in the top 10 had looked at moving back, and every team not in the top 10 had looked at moving up. And I think that, I mean, we know Oklahoma City is looking at it, or at least we think they are. It's going to be wild trying to keep up, I think, with, who is actually going where and who actually drafted whom.
I don't even know what show it's from. That might be kind of bad, but the gif of the crazy guy with the cork board behind him where he's pointing at all the shit and he's smoking the cigarette.
Yep.
What
Always
show is that
Sunny?
from?
Always Sunny.
It's from Always Sunny. Yeah.
Always Sunny.
That's gonna be all of us on this stream Wednesday night.
That's why we have Woj. Woj can walk us through that.
Yeah, exactly.
It also is going to make that mock draft really dirty because everyone's going to fill out a mock draft and then none of the picks are going to line up.
So true.
One thing I would point out, and this is to answer the question here on my end, I would say pick 28 is not going to the Oklahoma City Thunder as far as like who's drafted. Couple of reasons with how flexible Presti's going to want to be this season, and just looking at him historically, the Thunder like to roll with 14 guys. Like they don't always fill out that 15-man roster. That's point A. Point B, in any Chris Paul trade, whether guys are rerouted, it's a 3-team trade. With that salary, you're likely going to get multiple players back. I don't know if you can trade Chris Paul, get 2 to 3 guys back, and make all these picks and still be under 15 players if you pick up all these player options with guys like Burton. But either way, like you got to keep that in mind too. You can only sign 15 guys.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about that for like the last couple days, actually, with the amount of picks Oklahoma City has, and then how many first rounders that they're going to have. That is so many dudes in a short amount of time that they're going to have to make like a lot of decisions on, or just trading them or stashing them or whatever, might have I'm curious if OKC would have another Houston situation where you draft and stash like in the States, but it'll be intriguing nonetheless.
Definitely. No, I think that's a definite possibility. I would also agree. I don't think pick 28 is coming to Oklahoma City. I think it's going to get rerouted. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a 3-team deal where you flip. I was looking at it today. Like, would Danny Green in 28 make sense to Minnesota for pick 17 and like James Johnson?
That's a good one. I like that.
I think
I liked James Johnson like 3 years ago. Same thing as I liked Danny Green 4 years ago.
Yeah, and James Johnson is another expiring deal, so you're just climbing up the board, and Danny Green would be good in the locker room with those young Wolves up in Minnesota. So it's.
And actually competing for a playoff spot, not tanking like he would be in OKC.
Somebody brought up a good question. They said, with Dennis being traded, do you think it's less likely we trade Steve-O? I think it's more likely Oklahoma City tries to trade him, but that's just me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think they're going to try.
I don't think he has a market.
Yeah, that's kind of what I worry about. Yep. Exactly.
Nick has been perpetuating that for like the last 3 years, that OKC definitely overpaid Steven Adams, which they did, and we've been questioning his market value, and I don't know what it is, and it's definitely not what he's worth right now as far as the money he's making. So I don't know how OKC would get off that. I mean, he's expiring this year, isn't he?
Yep.
So might as well just eat that and try to renegotiate or something.
Yep.
See if he'll sign a more reasonable deal. If he wants to stay in Oklahoma City, and if they want him to kind of, take on that role a little bit, that there's a path where it could work. But I agree. I think there's a chance that I don't know. It feels like nobody's safe, and maybe nobody is the wrong word, but like they're going to look at anybody, and anybody that gets them a favorable return is possibly going out the door.
So one last thing I want to bring up to you guys here, and this is something that I saw a lot of on Thunder Twitter. It was a combination of excitement, or maybe just a consensus of excitement because things are actually happening. But a lot of people, or a lot of fans, I think, who were like, that's all we got for this potential, it should have been the 6th man of the year. So what do you guys think about the value in return? Like me personally, I think getting a first round for Dennis Schroder, especially on an expiring contract in a year like this, is fantastic. And not only do you get a first rounder for Dennis, even if it is a late first rounder, you're also getting a guy in Danny Green, which we've been talking about now for the past 10 minutes, that you could flip. Even though he didn't have his best season maybe this past season, he's still, I think, going to be very highly sought after. And Presti can continue to get more value out of Danny Green to add on to that Schroder trade. So what are your guys' thoughts on the official return for Dennis Schroder?
I've got 2 things, and it's not like groundbreaking stuff. I think we all already know this, and we all be in agreement. Like before this last 2019-20 season, Dennis Schroder probably would not have netted you a first round pick. Like we were saying, 15.5 million, like that's way too much for him. Like, yeah, he's a good bench player, but like, do you really need him with all these point guards? And then now he's a guy the Lakers are targeting, and he's going to be the third best player on a team running it back, trying to win a ship. Second part of that, I don't think this is done. Like, I still think Presti's trying to get a Taylen Horton-Tucker out of the deal, or, bring in a third team. Like, I think this initial report where it's going to be centered around Danny Green for obvious contract reasons and pick 28, like the door isn't closed. I think when it's all said and done, like the value in return is going to be much higher than we think it is right now.
I think that's fair. Definitely. I don't know. It's interesting, but I think there's a lot more left to come. Let's move on to some of those other things. The first one being Danilo Gallinari. There have been some reports coming out first from sponsor of the podcast, betonline.ag.
Yeah, had the odds.
Yep, has the Miami Heat as the number one odds-on favorite to land Danilo Gallinari this offseason.
I've been saying.
Yep.
I've been saying.
More reports coming out that Miami is looking at multiple avenues to get Gallo there. I don't know what those avenues are. I guess, will you take the mid-level exception? Gallo says no. Okay, shit. Let's move on to spot number 2, which is a sign and trade, or maybe a 3-team sign and trade. I don't know. Miami was involved in a rare 4-team sign and trade last offseason, so they're willing to do whatever it takes. But do you guys think Gallo ends up in Miami? Number 1. Number 2, what does a sign and trade of Gallo to Miami look like?
Yes, he does. Gallo deserves Miami, and Miami deserves Gallo. As far as what a deal could look like, it's not super sexy, but I could see something like an Iguodala. We talked about it a second ago in regards to Danny Green, but like I could see Iguodala coming to Oklahoma City, and I understand, like, no, thank you. But similar to Danny Green, Iguodala is a piece that could be flipped. He's a piece that Oklahoma City could get something in return for.
He'd be so pissed though after having to go to Memphis for a year.
I love it. Sign me up.
You're right. There's nothing.
Sign me up for the Iguodala jerseys.
Externally.
Get all the Iguodala jerseys on Fanatics that nobody will ever buy because he'll never wear them.
Except us.
Yeah, we should do a giveaway for an Iguodala jersey if that happens. But like, he still has value. It'll probably be, he'll probably end up with the Lakers just because it feels right. He needs another ring. But like, I don't know. He feels like a piece that Oklahoma City could in turn into something else, and it helps Miami by getting him off Miami.
I would have liked this way better when Justice Winslow was still in the Heat. I would have liked that much better. And now we were like dealing with who, like James Johnson, and not James Johnson, but Kelly Olynyk. Like, ooh. And by the way, I was laughing because Michael Herndon said the first time I watched you guys, and none of you look like anything I thought you would.
We all look way sexier than
I'm pretty sure that's
you are welcome, Michael.
But yeah, no, but really,
someone tunes in and says, "Why are all these assholes wearing hats except the orange-headed guy?
Okay,
why does the brown guy have no shirt on?"
No one told me it was hat night.
I was just. Yeah, but for real, I would have been more intrigued by a sign and trade for Gallo to Miami if Winslow was still available. But now he's not. It's just like, who do I want? Kelly Olynyk, and that's it. Maybe Kendrick Nunn, but I don't see why would Miami want to part from him, especially having his 25-year-old rookie campaign. So I don't know. They're trying to get better. They're not trying to.
That was my thought. Was Kelly Olynyk and who else did you just say? Kendrick Nunn. Kelly Olynyk, Kendrick Nunn probably get you there on the money. That's a combined like $14 million, which is probably about what Gallo's going to get in free agency. And then something as simple as like remove the protections on the 2023 pick. Right now it's lottery protected for Miami. So if it falls 1 through 14, Miami keeps it. Anywhere else, Oklahoma City keeps it. Do I think Miami's going to miss the playoffs in 2 years? No. But you remove those protections just in case, Jimmy Butler kills the whole team by making them wake up at 3 a.m. to go to practice.
They're gonna have Giannis.
That's fair.
Yeah, maybe. But the other thing is the Iguodala one that Taylor was talking about. You go get Andre Iguodala. He fits perfectly into that Golden State trade exception that was created by Andre Iguodala.
That is interesting.
So you put Andre Iguodala back in his own trade exception. I don't think that's ever been done before. That would be a fun, little quirky NBA cap.
Justin.
Is there a rule? You can't do that?
Oh, did Justin say Iguodala? Sorry.
That's the third time in a week.
3 straight pods that you've called me Taylor.
Can you blame him though, Justin?
I'm not even wearing a hat.
Man, he's like the tallest guy here. He was like
I don't even say Enos.
I found the picture of us when we podcast with Perry Jones, and the fact that Justin's taller than Perry Jones really
okay.
And I'm literally we lost Jacob, but I'm literally half the size. I'm literally half the size of Perry Jones. I come up to his
You're barely in the picture.
His pants, where his pants meet his shirt. That's where I'm at on Perry Jones. So
I'm not taller than Perry Jones.
You're the same height. Shut up.
He's got me by 3 inches.
It was close. It was close.
But
regardless, so I want your guys' final prediction while we try and get Jacob back in here. Does Gallo end up in Miami? And if he does, is it a sign and trade or is it just outright? I think to a lot of the people's points and some of our comments here, you have Giannis.
Yeah.
To think about next year.
Miami would love that. I think for Oklahoma City's perspective, you hope it's a sign and trade because I think that's going to net you a bigger return. Similar to the deals at the deadline, though, with Miami, since we're talking about them, they were a little hesitant because they wanted to lock Gallo down longer term. Is he willing to add that in this time around? If they work out some sort of sign and trade, I think that could sway the deal. But I think you're going to get a lot more for Gallo. If you can lock him into a longer contract potentially, not like a really long contract because Gallo's kind of old, but if you can get him to add an extra year or something like that, like Miami was looking for, then that's going to help things from OKC's perspective.
I think he ends up in Miami, but not in a sign and trade. It sounds nice, but it doesn't sound like it just sounds like a favor to OKC, and I don't know if they'll do that, especially with the cap,
fair.
With the cap not as that it would and stuff like that. I don't think it will, but it's just being down. Nick, what were you?
No, I'm in agreement with you. If he does go to Miami, I don't think it'll be through sign and trade, just with the way their contracts look and everything. I do think there's a solid chance that he could be in a sign and trade deal through Oklahoma City. I just don't think it would be Miami again. I also just can't wait for Oklahoma City to pull off a sign and trade with Gallo and Thunder Twitter saying, "We got this guy in pick 30. Are you kidding me?" I'm like, do you realize
getting anything is a
either
miracle.
something or nothing?
Right, exactly.
So we'll see. But I don't know. I just Gallo, 32, injury prone. It was a blessing in Oklahoma City he didn't get injured. I just think some teams are still kind of hesitant, just knowing it was a miracle he wasn't injured last season.
Yeah, that's fair too.
So we have one last trade rumor I think we probably need to touch on here. Chris Paul to the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday's podcast because it had just recently dropped. But it seems like that the talks are continuing. Obviously, there's been some rumors that have been dropped. Some maybe not so true, not quite as valid, obviously, as a Woj or somebody like that, dropping those rumors. But I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on that as well. Is CP3 to Phoenix a done deal? And maybe the Schroder trade that happened this morning is, like we mentioned a little earlier, is that a way of making that happen? Jacob, can you hear us now? Can you talk? Oh, yeah, there we go. We're back.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure. This is bear with us here, friends, because this is a new stream.
This is our maiden voyage.
So, yeah, that's right. You guys are along for the ride.
No, so the CP3 stuff, we haven't heard any more news out of it. Now, one thing I did think was interesting.
That's not true. People on Twitter are saying it's a done deal, Jacob.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just call me Scoop P.
God,
Gross.
I
Did
hate you.
I say that
Don't
on
do this.
YouTube
Don't
and
do this. Don't do
Twitter?
this. We did this one time, and it was
Abort.
not good. It was a bad decision. It was
We're,
early on.
we're
his
still
career.
in our basements.
We had a
We are.
different.
We're still in our mother's basement.
Although I
we
don't
had
have
a-
up anymore. I'm on that 1G, that
We had a
one
diff-
gig, that 1 gig internet.
We had a different Justin back then, so
Different Justin.
So there was a report that Tom Thibodeau of the Knicks is pushing the front office to make, quote, win now moves. And I thought, ooh, win now moves.
Yeah.
All you have to do is get Phoenix to say, okay, we'll throw pick 10 in for Chris Paul.
Yes.
And then you immediately hang up the phone. You call Leon Rose and say, hey, Phoenix offered pick 10. You throwing pick 8 into the mix?
Yes.
That
I love it.
leverage, baby. I'm
I
here
love
for it.
I think to the second part of your question, Taylor, I think that the Schroder deal, my gut tells me, yes, that's an indication that there's a Chris Paul deal that they feel pretty good about. You know, we're going to start stripping this thing down to the screws because we've moved Chris Paul and that's the direction we're heading. But at the same time, I felt that way about the Jeremy Grant trade last offseason. I felt like when they moved Jeremy Grant, it was like, okay, this thing's blowing up, but that wasn't the case. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it just worked out with Schroder. Maybe Schroder said, hey, I don't want to come back next season. Find me a deal similar to what I'm pretty sure Jeremy Grant said. And they were able to work it out. So I don't want to lean on that too much as speculation, but it just seems like there's probably something out there that Presti feels pretty good about.
there are some random Suns folks that are saying that OKC wants Cam Johnson, who has cinder blocks 4 feet, and Mike.
Isn't he like a 28-year-old rookie too?
Yeah, no thanks.
I mean, he can shoot the ball, but he can't do anything else. And then they also, he's saying OKC also wants Bridges, which I don't think OKC is really saying that either.
First
Good
rounder
luck.
CP3 or
And so when I think of CP3 going to the Knicks possibly for a win now move with Tom Thibodeau, my goodness, like one of the best parts about CP3 and OKC was that you had Dennis Schroder and Shea, and they could stagger them all the time. CP3 could play, 26, 28 minutes. And then, of course, when things go to the playoffs, he can play all he wants. And Thibodeau's going to play that man like 36 minutes a night, and he's going to kill his body on that vegan diet. It's not going to work. It's not going to work up there.
Chris Paul just wants to hoop, though.
He's a hooper. He's a hooper. And I think he would do really well with Devin Booker, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Oh, with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Can you imagine a DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker pick and roll? That's disgusting.
And now Devin Booker actually gets to create his own stuff and go off the dribble and not have to score 50 a night to be in contention to win that game.
Yeah,
it's true.
I think this is a given, but I want to double check. Bridges versus number 10. You'd rather have Bridges, yes?
For this team in particular?
How old is Bridges?
I
How old is Bridges?
want 10. Bridges is 24?
Jacob, you're actually the last person I thought that would go that direction.
Yeah, I want the pick. I want the pick.
You want the pick?
I want
That's
the pick.
tough, man.
That is tough.
I like Mikal Bridges a lot, but you're gonna have to pay him in 2 years now?
Yeah.
He's already a little bit ahead of the timeline, not the Shea timeline, but the 50 million picks timeline.
Right.
Right.
I like Mikal Bridges a lot. I think Presti would probably take the pick unless he thought he could get Bridges and flip him for a better pick.
Who scores on a Dort Bridges defense?
Not a lot of people, but
lot.
I think you want people to score on this team this next year so you can be really bad and get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah,
for me,
and that's an argument we get in all the time. Like, I don't care if it's if you throw out Dort and Bridges and SGA, Steven Adams and Darius Baisley, you're still not going to win games.
That's true.
We can't be scared. You can't be scared to pick up guys that are decent right now.
Yeah, I agree though. I think it's the timeline. I'd probably take the pick too.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Okay. I really like Bridges, and I think that he would be a good fit, but it's the age.
Do you like stone Bridges or wood Bridges?
I like Bridges. I would take him because
he's somebody that is already proven somewhat as a young guy. He's got definite tools. He's not in the Thunder mold of raw and athletic and has no shooting ability whatsoever. So you know what you're getting, and you know you can improve him with the staff that is in OKC, that their plan is to improve and build upon prior maybe abilities. And so then you look at it, and then we did talk about the cutoff age for this team is 24 years old, and you don't have to take all those picks like we talked about earlier. So,
right.
I mean, you might even just package a few picks to move up a lot more. So I would take Bridges knowing that that age ceiling at 24 is probably about it, and just keep on rolling with it. That's what I'm saying anyways.
I agree. I think this is an irrelevant point anyways, because I think Phoenix thinks very highly of Bridges.
There's no way they're trading him.
We talked. Go listen to the podcast we did with the timeline guys here a couple months ago. We were talking about CP3 trades, and it's not just them either. I mean, the organization as a whole really thinks highly of Bridges.
They're
very same way.
Very different players with very different skill sets, but I think the Phoenix front office looks at Bridges the same way that Oklahoma City's front office looks at Shea.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Speaking of, though, one last thing I want to touch on about the CP3 to Phoenix thing before we move on, because I know we need to get moving on, is I tweeted about this. I know a few people have noticed it as well. Just a small aside, and Nick and I had a conversation about this in the Slack as well, in our uncontested Slack. But
got a little heated
on the latest edition of the Low Post podcast, when Low was talking about the Orlando Magic, he mentioned, they might be able to flip Evan Fournier for a first. He's on an expiring contract. It would make some sense. And then he said, just one sentence aside, never expanded on it. He said, this is also what Sam Presti is asking about Kelly Oubre. And the way it was worded was interesting. There was no elaboration. But it makes you wonder, is Presti making calls to see what Oubre's value is because he already thinks that deal is in the bag, or that deal is in the bag and just hasn't been announced yet? And so he's trying to figure out how quickly he can flip Oubre. Just an interesting idea of kind of where I think their thought process probably is, which is flip as many things as you can. To try to climb this draft board and the 2021 draft
This
board.
is literally 2K mode. I saw somebody tweet it the other day today, but this is literally what you do in 2K when you get a really crappy team and you're like in owner mode or whatever. You sell off literally all of your players for picks, and you just get more picks and picks and picks, and then you suck for the next 3 years, and to build it up, and hopefully you catch something in free agency, like something minuscule. And talking about Oubre just makes me think of the one time he was in OKC, and I tweeted at him that his hair was whack.
About this.
His hair was. I said, "Yo, Kelly Oubre's hair is whack." And then he tweeted me right after the game, was like, "You spelled whack wrong," because I spelled it with an H and not the WACK. So then I felt really
how
stupid.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, I felt dumb. I was like, "Dang!" Like I was really clowning on his hair, and then I was wrong about. I didn't know there were two different kinds of wax until that. So.
Yeah, it's,
if he goes to Oklahoma City even for a partial season, we got to get him on the pod and retell him that story.
Oh my God, that'd be incredible.
This is the guy that tweeted you.
We'd also have two Converse athletes.
Yeah, we would.
I forgot about that. Good point.
He looked pretty dope in Phoenix's uniform reveal video.
The horse and the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
it'd be a shame if he got traded.
We don't have this in our doc, and we're already going along. But
why not?
But why not? You know, we're Russell Westbrook fans. So the City Edition leak on the T-shirts. Let's hope that's not going to be the uniform design.
Don't get any of us started. It looks like the freaking Loves shirt they put on the chairs for the playoff games. It's like a triple XL because everyone's too fat to wear them.
Chesapeake, all the sponsors to do the free T-shirts for the playoffs. That's exactly what it looks like.
It looks like the 40-year-old mom got a hold of Microsoft Paint and said, "Come here, honey, look at this."
That font reminds me of like an AAU jersey. Like I'm pretty sure we saw Bronny in a jersey like that back when he was playing AAU.
I can confirm that is real. That is what's going to be on the jerseys. What I did find out is the font is definitely the same font that's on the Oklahoma flag. So they're going that angle, and it's saying Oklahoma instead of Oklahoma City. Like there's going to be some state flag tie-in. I haven't been able to get any like hard and fast details on the rest of the jersey, but I think there's a potential that there's like some other design element that obviously doesn't show up on a t-shirt that could maybe help. I'm not saying it's going to be a good design at the end of the day, but like I'm hoping for like a big old Osage shield on the shorts or
That'd be
something like
cool.
that.
I want
That'd be
that
really
big.
cool,
I want that big old peace pipe.
Fuck. I just
Then
think
we'll
when they
get
tank,
Rumble
Peace
Smith.
pipe.
when they tank, they
Dion.
literally meant they were tanking everything, and they're just gonna make sure that you're gonna make sure that you're
Everything.
a damn good fan.
Yeah,
Because they're
yeah.
eliminating
Well,
all the bad fans right now.
here-
They're like,
here-
if you stick around through this Storm Chaser inspired jersey, you're with us in the long haul.
Here was my conspiracy is they made these jerseys for Chris Paul to say, "Oh, dude, fuck it, I'm out.
No thanks.
I'm not wearing
I'm
this.
not wearing that.
Whew.
I'm out, bro." All right, guys, let's move on to some stuff around the association. But before we do, let's take a quick moment to tell all of our listeners and watchers about who's paying for this podcast or who's paying us for this podcast.
2020 has already reshaped how we work, and it's almost over. Businesses across the globe are challenged to be their most efficient, which means every hire is critical. Indeed is here to help. Indeed is the #1 job site in the world with more total visits than any other job site, according to ComScore. Indeed helps you find quality candidates quickly, so you can focus on hiring the person you need to keep your business going, like maybe an assistant coach for the Thunder. Unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. You only pay for what you need, you can pause your account at any time, and there are no long-term contracts. And now, Indeed's new way of matching you with candidates instantly delivers a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria that you can contact the moment you sponsor a job, making Indeed the only job site that can move as fast as you do. 73% of online job seekers in the U.S. visit Indeed each month, according to ComScore total visits. So it's clear Indeed can help you get the quality hire you need. That's why more than 3 million businesses worldwide use Indeed for hiring. Right now, Indeed is offering our listeners a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Try out Indeed with a free $75 credit at Indeed.com/BlueWire. This is their best offer available anywhere. Go right now to Indeed.com/BlueWire. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
Football is back in full swing. I don't know if you guys were like me, but I was out on the back porch watching some games this evening before we jumped on the podcast. And you might not be at the game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. BetOnline is going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on every possible chance to win this season. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than anywhere else. You can get in on their season opening bonuses today and start off wagering on wins, division, and championship futures all day, every day. Head to BetOnline today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. And don't forget to use the promo code BlueWire at betonline.ag. That's BlueWire, all one word. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
All right, gentlemen, you ready to take a trip around the association?
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
I don't even know where you're sitting at. Like.
It's even better live.
Yeah, I can't even hear it because my audio output messed up, but I still enjoyed it.
So you played it in your head, and that's what matters.
I could hear it as the timer was counting down. I could hear it in my head. Gentlemen, the saga in Houston
Ooh.
just gets better and better.
Wait, we have a captain for that.
First, Russell
I hate that caption. What a garbage caption.
Taylor's trying to get a job
Overused.
writing headlines
Oh,
for a
man.
newspaper. First, we had the report that that Westbrook and Harden were, quote, uneasy with the direction of the franchise. Then we heard Westbrook wants out. Then we heard the whole team is pissed off. Now, apparently, sounds as if James Harden is interested in joining the Brooklyn Nets, while Woj is reporting that the market for Westbrook is, quote, non-existent. It is very slow moving because nobody wants all that money. Meanwhile,
Hard work for our guy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Presti got 2 first-round picks and 2 swaps. Yes. Also, Justin, that is a good mustache.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing.
We should all do mustaches for the Wednesday live draft show.
It's not hard for me.
I don't have enough time.
Back to the question at hand. Beyond my mustache, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a moment. Who's to say Tillman Fertitta? I
That's what he's selling at his new Mexican restaurant. Tillman Fajitas.
I can go Perkins and call him Fertito. Tillman Fertitta. Who's to say he doesn't tell Harden to suck it and just like, bro, you're under contract for 2 more years. What are you gonna do? Like at this point with the Rockets, yeah, it could tank the culture, but it sounds like that's already happened.
Yeah. I'll tell you what they do is he would show up to each game at halftime drunk after he got out of the strip club.
The strip club. And the thing is, like,
get a lap dance on the bench.
The strip clubs in Houston, I bet, are very generous to Harden, and there aren't many places like Houston. And I just think it's interesting that Sam Presti drafted all these top elite players, and he would not keep them together. He traded them. He traded one of them on the last time college game day came to Oklahoma, and they're coming back this Saturday. And they've spent the rest of their careers separate since 2016, but always wanting to link up back with one another to win a title because Presti would not win that title with them. So I'm very intrigued at these guys like Presti. Like these weren't free agents. He drafted them. Like, oh, okay, so he does it all through the draft. He controls their contracts, and well, they control their contract, and he sent them to Houston. The best thing he got out of it was Steven Adams. So, yikes! You said strip clubs, and there's no place like Houston. Is that out of experience?
I imagine from firsthand experience.
I imagine the strip clubs in Houston for James Harden treat him much more. What would I say? I'd just say much better than
Sugars and
than maybe a cold night in Brooklyn. Who knows?
They probably treat him about like restaurants in OKC treat Steven Adams. They know they're going to make a lot of money when he walks in.
I was about to say, I think Harden probably single-handedly keeps 3 or 4 strip clubs open.
Yeah,
which is why he has jerseys in the rafters. But
my man's got a face mask on and getting a lap dance and hand sanitizer.
See, that's remember when the pandemic just like officially hit and they were doing drive-through stripper like lap dances or whatever,
Yes.
I don't
remember this.
They did in Oklahoma. They did. They had drive-through things. Seriously,
it's
funny. Kamiar's the only guy that knows about any of this stuff.
You guys remember that? You remember what it smelled like?
Remember when we went through the strip club drive-through?
It probably looks really weird and probably looks like even more shady. But like you can imagine what that looks like maybe at Houston, and then like I bet they don't have drive-through strip clubs over in Brooklyn, so it doesn't make sense.
I'm just imagining Kamiar sitting in his car with the windows rolled up, eating wings, just like
what's up?
Watching a stage of women dancing on poles.
I've never been to a strip club in my life.
Neither have I.
If it's a drive-through one, does it count?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You tell me.
If I didn't breathe in the air, does it count? That's a good question. I didn't inhale.
So
where are we right now?
We have a problem.
I want to ask you guys. So every time something like this leaks, no, I'm not talking about strip clubs. I'm talking about the Harden trade rumors.
Strip club. Whoa,
the Harden trade rumors to Brooklyn, and obviously a huge disclaimer being that in the article that Woj and Rona Shelburne and somebody else, anyways, it all came together when, of course, I guess it was James Harden and KD were all working out in LA this summer, or I guess off season, and they kind of started talking about it. But my question is, like, when these reports come out, I talked about this on Wednesday when we learned about the CP3 reports, the trade rumors to Phoenix. Who is leaking this information out, and what are they trying to gain from it? So in this case, even though Morey isn't there anymore, Houston is notoriously known for leaking out some of this information. And the way I took it personally, and I want your guys' opinion on this, it almost felt like, okay, so James has made it very clear he's not happy here. He might be we're probably going to have to trade him at some point. We want to evaluate all options before the season starts, but we haven't personally heard from the Brooklyn front office. So what can we do to get them to initiate so that way we don't have Houston has reached out to Brooklyn trying to trade James Harden tweets going all over the place, right? Like,
That's a
how
good
do we
point.
get them to come to us? And then we can evaluate all options. We can get their best offer on the table right before the season starts. And then we can proceed. And maybe we can go one last run with Harden, or run it back is what they were saying, this next season with Harden. And one last try. So is it Houston who leaked that, trying to get Brooklyn to come to them? That's kind of how I took it.
Well, what about the flip side of that coin? What if it's Brooklyn or an agent that leaked it, trying to get, trying to get that information out and say, hey, Houston, look, Harden doesn't
James
want in there anymore.
and
Yeah,
James wants to go
talk to
Brooklyn.
us
So
and
what
let's
can
make
you
a
do?
deal. And speaking of, like, if we get deep in like the discussion of what is James Harden's worth, we're going to be here for a long time. But what the hell does Brooklyn have to offer? Like, a lot of teams could beat that offer. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and some first-round picks that aren't going to be any good.
I think the picks might help Houston because they don't have any of those, unlike Oklahoma City.
But I mean, like,
But other
could you
teams
just
offer
turn around
picks
and go to
and better
Philly and
players.
ask for Ben Simmons and
Like,
picks?
Nick, you were asking. That's the bit.
Yeah,
that's right.
right.
Nick, you were even talking about the Warriors earlier. Like, the Warriors can
Yeah.
offer a better package which is horrifying, but they can. They can offer a better package, I think, up front than the Brooklyn Nets can.
I think any team with a top 4 or 5 pick has a better package than Brooklyn. I mean, if you're the Wolves with pick number 1, I'm not saying Harden wants to go to the Wolves, and it sounds like that'll be a big part of it. But if I'm the Rockets and it's pick 1 versus mid-20s Dinwiddie and LeVert and some of these other guys we've talked about, like, come on.
Yeah, I just don't see how Brooklyn concocts a deal and is competitive with it, unless they give up, like, I don't know what future picks they own, if they own all their own future picks, but it'd have to be like the next 6 years giving up the first round picks, and then in the years you can't, pick swaps or something.
That's what I was going to say.
Wild.
It's going to end up, if it does go through, it's going to end up being a little bit Paul George Clippers-esque, because these deals where the players are locked into a contract and they say, like, this is where I want to go, the leverage just evaporates. Presti was in a unique situation in what he was able to get back, but, like, I mean, Houston, I don't know if things have really gone as sideways as they have. Yeah, you want to do right by Harden because of all he's given to your franchise, but, like, at the same time, sorry, dude, like, we're not trading you to Brooklyn. And if it comes down to, like I said, sorry, you're going to have to play here another year before we look at trade offers, or we're going to send you to Philly or something like that, then they may have to do that. And Harden, I don't know. It's an interesting kind of like referendum on the player movement era to see if Harden can get away with this, I think is what I'm curious to watch.
Exactly.
2 things. Number 1, how satisfying is it going to be whenever Harden gets traded and the Thunder got more for Paul George than Houston gets for James Harden?
Well, it's different. Like Justin said, it was for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
And Kawhi.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but
I don't know
still,
if James.
I'm going to rub
made
it in
that
everyone's
decision.
face when it happens.
Right. Yeah.
Secondly, let's say they do end up trading Harden. They hit the big red button that's on the table. They blow it all up. They trade Harden. Apparently, there's no market for Westbrook. But once you trade Harden, Westbrook is going to say, "Get me the hell out of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Send me anywhere." The Thunder own their pick next year. Let's say I think I maybe mentioned to you guys earlier this evening before we recorded. Go ahead and send Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie to Houston. They're going to get their asses beat in the Western Conference, and the Thunder are going to get a top 10 pick in the 2021 draft.
Hopefully, they don't get their asses beat too bad, or else we don't get that pick.
Is it a top 5
Top four
protected?
protected? Yeah. Top
The
four.
next year is it's a swap with Houston, and we have Miami's pick outright in 2021.
That's why it's like the win-win scenario. If you just they aren't able to trade Harden this season, they have to run it back with Harden. They just offload Westbrook, and then you just have a disgruntled Harden all season who, they're winning some games, but they're just kind of middle of the pack. That's just a perfect scenario for
Houston has truly screwed themselves roster-wise.
Yep.
Yep.
Unlike any other team in the NBA. Like, you even look at the powers in the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, they are the most screwed, and they're in that area of what we talked about before.
you don't want to be like in the no man's land. You either want to be really good in contending, or you want to be down low so you can get players to be contending.
Right.
And the Rockets are like, it's weird. They can be really good. Of course, the tallest player on their team is like 6'7", but they have no assets. They have no picks, and all their money is tied up into two guys. So it's really them.
And their youngest player is 26 years old. They have no youth.
I think their average age, it's definitely the oldest in the NBA. I think it's like 28 and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half of their players are high risk for COVID.
Yeah. And
You know?
it's interesting because like Oklahoma City, of course, they trade for Shea, and the Clippers, they have a down year because way off is awful towards the end of the year. And then Oklahoma City, like a lot of Rockets fans were very excited to get rid of Chris Paul and to get Russell Westbrook, especially when Russell was carrying them through those month and a half in the middle of the season before the pandemic happened. And then all of a sudden you see that OKC got the much better end of the deal, and it's all going to possibly blow up again right after. And so and of course this year is going to be a quick year, seemingly. May not seem so quick when you're losing all the time. And so Oklahoma City, Sam Presti's kind of been blessed by the nature of how all these things have been unfolding as far as time, because there's a lot happening in a short amount of time that favors Oklahoma City.
True.
I totally agree. Yeah. I would not want to be a Houston Rockets fan right now.
It's
no.
delicious.
Forever.
Oh,
it is.
It
Yeah,
is
forever.
delicious.
Should be a Thunder fan.
Yes. All right, guys. One more to hit on before we get out of here. I want to touch on the Drew Holiday rumors as well. Lots of talk that Drew may be on the move. Atlanta has been mentioned. Denver, the Boston Celtics. Which team do you guys think Drew Holiday fits the best on? And at the end of the day, what do you think the cost is going to be to get him?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I think it's telling that the Celtics were trying to trade all three of their first rounders in this draft to get a top 10 pick, which they then were going to flip for a Drew Holiday package. Not just the 10th pick, but a 10th pick and Fowler, whoever else.
They have to match salary. Yeah,
exactly.
It's probably going to be that lottery pick.
That was per KOC also.
Yeah, plus Kemba Walker.
It seems like a high asking price, but
that defensive lineup of Marcus Smart, Drew, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and whoever else you throw out there would be so
wild.
Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Real nice.
The Nets have also been super interested in Drew Holiday. And if this whole like Houston, the Harden thing kind of actually comes together, which kind of still seems like a long shot, but let's say it were to, that makes, I don't know, that puts a kink in the whole Drew Holiday trade negotiations. But the other team I want to mention is Denver, and I always have loved that fit. It's not a secret, that's something that's been out there for almost a full season now, that Drew Holiday make a ton of sense in Denver, and I think Denver's had mutual interest there. He fits in their culture, which is something that matters a lot to Denver, and would obviously put them over the hump to be able to contend at least with teams like the Lakers and Clippers.
Speaking about Denver, because I've read this book, and I think I've mentioned to you guys a few times about the rebuild that the Sixers made, and it covers everything from the beginning of the rebuild to now. And do you guys think that OKC's rebuild is going to be somewhat similar to maybe like the Nuggets, as far as you just pick guys and like they're not even really that high picks, but they turn out to be really decent players, and you just get
that's a good point.
Draft, or is it a Celtics thing because you already have Shea and maybe a couple other pieces, or is it a Sixers thing where you are just building from the ground up and it's going to be miserable for a few years? Because Thunder fans and Oklahoma fans in general have been really spoiled. I mean, unless you're an Oklahoma State Cowboys fan, you haven't really been spoiled. But if you think, like, because Seattle did all the tanking for OKC, I mean, they had Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
That's a good point.
And so they did all the tanking for OKC. They had one bad season. And PJ Carlesimo got fired halfway through that one bad season, and then they started taking off. And so I think people are underestimating how bad this team will probably be over the next 2 to 3 seasons.
I like that scale. I like that scale. You have the Celtics, who were like just the perfect quote unquote tank, right? Because they were still competitive and it wasn't a very long tank on one end of the scale. On the other far end of the scale, you have the Sixers that was much more drawn out and was kind of a miserable process, but it did pay off. But in the middle, you have a team like the Nuggets, like you said, Kamiar, who just kind of built from the ground up and were able to just gradually become more and more competitive. and
I mean,
to
also
the point now where they're in
drafting
contention.
Jokic really late helps.
Right.
Exactly.
What about the far end of the scale? The teams that suck and still suck.
Oh,
The
so you go even
Sacramento
further
Kings,
and you get
the
the
New York
Kings.
Knicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
King
Yeah.
and Hornets. I mean,
I
Hornets are a little
think-
better, but
I blame that
I
on
think-
management.
Yeah,
Right,
I think
exactly.
the Thunder are more leaning towards a Boston style rebuild as
Yep.
far as the quickness with the Philly style of bottoming out. I just think it's going to be a bottom out and then they're going to rise up rather quickly.
Well,
but
similar,
back to,
similar to Boston because they had all the picks.
yeah,
Right,
exactly,
that's the key.
exactly.
Yep.
that's huge.
Back to Drew Holiday in Denver though. Let's say there is interest there. They're having talks. If you are in the Denver front office and the decision comes down to we can get Drew Holiday and he'd basically take the place of Gary Harris, do you add Michael Porter Jr. into the trade? 'Cause
Hell no.
I think
No.
that's the asking price, right? I mean, I don't
It
know
is.
what else
No.
they
It
want.
absolutely is.
No, I think it would be Gary Harris. They'd flirt with Bol. I mean, there's no chance. Michael Porter Jr. might be the best player on that team in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And if you don't throw
Even
He's
him
better
an
than Drew Holiday.
anti-vaxxer, though. He's an anti-vaxxer. You got to keep that in mind. So.
I
He
think,
might get COVID and die. Who knows?
Okay, chill.
I think if they don't throw Michael Porter Jr. in there, I mean, there's enough suitors for Drew Holiday that you can get a better offer elsewhere than Gary Harris and Bol and a late first round pick, you know?
And I
Yeah.
think you take that risk if you're Denver, to Nick and Kamir's point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would keep Michael Porter Jr. too. I'm just saying, I don't think a deal with
it's a
Denver
good
gets
point.
done for Drew unless Michael Porter Jr.'s in it, because then you just turn around and you make a deal with the Celtics, or you make a deal with Atlanta, or you make a deal with, you know, whoever.
That's what I want to mention. So
The devil.
one last team to cover before we get out of here. @_CL12_. He says 100% Atlanta for number 6 and DeAndre Hunter plus filler.
That's an interesting one. I mean, hell, why
It
Too
not?
much.
How much is Drew Holiday making? Do we know? I don't have it pulled up. Here, I'll get it.
Ooh, I don't have it pulled up either.
Is it 26?
I was gonna say 26. That's weird.
Oh, how cute! You guys were going to say the same thing. It's 25.3, assholes.
I was gonna say a lot of money.
25.3.
I was
Same
gonna say a
thing.
lot.
Here's a legitimate question for you. Golden State call says pick number 2 in Wiggins for Drew. Wiggins got 3 years left on the deal. You got to eat that money.
And you have Brandon Ingram, but
I
you
think
still
you-
get the number 2 pick. So I think you just
You,
tell
you
Wiggins
do
to
that.
suck it.
You do that. No, you do that.
I think I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another
Yeah.
one too. If
I
you're,
think Golden State would do it, right?
I know, I
Yeah.
do too. I do too. But if you're Brooklyn, and we've talked about Harden, but you have to give up the entire farm and have no bench. What about a Harden light type deal where you give up half of those guys we've talked about for Drew Holiday? You still have a solid bench. You can still
I
play
like that better.
defense, and you're getting 75% of the production.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do like Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert and Taurean Prince is actually over the amount you would need. You could do Karis LeVert. He makes 16. Jared Allen makes another 4. And like a Garrett Temple. Karis
And
LeVert,
then-
Jarrett Allen,
Yeah.
Garrett Temple.
And then throw in a draft pick.
Throw in their pick number. What is it like? I think they have 19.
19.
I think that's a pretty fair deal for Drew.
Jared
I do
Allen's
too.
a damn good center.
Yeah.
He
and
is.
Yep.
And he's
The
young.
question there, though, I mean, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but you already have Jackson Hayes there. You can bring in Jarrett Allen. He could start. You could play Jackson Hayes off the bench.
The Afro Boys.
I think you're
The
going to
Afro.
have to end up. Yeah, that's true. I think you're going to end up having to play Zion at the 5. I think that's where he's going to be best at in the league, is at the 5 as a mismatch.
He just has to expand that jumper. And he can.
So,
We've
yeah.
seen it.
But so there's another interesting hypothetical. You guys think Drew gets traded on draft night or before?
No.
Mm.
They're even like they're
I
in the
think-
same boat OKC was last summer. Like we would like to move Chris, but we're
Yeah.
happy bringing him into this season. They're in no rush. They're gonna wait for the best offer.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think the only difference there is last year Chris probably didn't have a lot of value being flipped, whereas I think Drew does have a lot of value right now.
True.
That's true.
What happens tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time?
The dinner
just
shooter
like-
trade becomes official.
Is it
Actually, yeah.
is it trade
because-
deadline? Is it like the trade deadline, or is it kind of like dull and then like tomorrow, like around 4 p.m., we get our first trade.
So
And
two weeks ago, maybe on one of our Sunday pods,
Me and Nick said under,
yeah,
right?
Nick said 3.5 trades on the day the trade market opens, and I said under.
Okay, so
First
you and I
24
said under.
hours.
And
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like an idiot now. I'm going to be
I
honest
know.
with you.
In
I
our
said
defense, we
under.
thought this was going to happen like 3 days ago.
Let's put it at 5.5 now. 5.5
Ugh.
trades done tomorrow from 11 a.m. Central Time to midnight. So in the 13-hour span,
5.5.
5.5. You going over or under?
I'm under on that one.
I'm under.
Yep.
Oh wow, all you
I think
guys
it's
are
under,
under.
but I think it's under, but it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
So we're all going over on the 3.
You've already there's already one, so it's really 4.5.
Yeah.
True.
So it's going to be interesting.
I'm excited.
I cannot wait.
I have a meeting with our.
Production is going to be in the toilet for like so many people tomorrow.
Well, I have a monthly update meeting with our CEO and our CEO/president at 1 p.m. So if you guys are ready for some trades to drop, be sure to tune in at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time because
There you go.
it's inevitable.
Definitely. Well,
Ugh.
guys, any thoughts before we hop on out of here?
It's exciting to be back. And this has been fun too. Had a lot of fun with you guys getting to be on here live and kind of like the olden
Inaugural
days
live pod.
when we first started, right?
Yeah.
When we did the what was it? I don't know what we used. Skype.
I think we used Skype back in the day.
Back
We've
when
upgraded.
we didn't care about quality. Yep.
We care about quality? Well, guys, thank you so much for checking out this episode. Whether you watched it live, if you did, hell yeah. We really enjoyed it. We'll be doing these more often. Or if you're checking out the podcast version, either way, thank you so much. Whether you've listened once or 1,000 times, make sure you go and drop that 5-star rating. As Kamiar stares at me awkwardly. Go drop that 5-star rating on iTunes. It means a lot to us. Also, come hang out with us Wednesday night on our virtual draft party. We're giving away tons of gifts. I guess you can call them gifts. Giveaways. We're giving away tons of giveaways. It's going to be a blast. We're going to react to all the picks as they come in. We're going to have some guests on with us as well. You're not going to want to miss out. Go check out at @the_uncontested on Twitter to find all of the information, including how you can win a pizza party, an OKC Thunder draft hat, and a custom Thunder jersey of whoever the rookie is that they draft on Wednesday night. Pokemon. Tons of stuff coming up. This week is going to be wild. Please enjoy the beginning of your week. Enjoy the trades that are going to go down tomorrow. Do so safely. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Stay safe. We want you guys to be healthy. We will be back with you Wednesday night for our live draft show, unless
Emergency pod.
we get an emergency pod with something big happening. If that is the case, we will come to you sooner. Again, have a great beginning of your week. And as always, Thunder up.
Hey, another one I thought of for Poku. Sexy Alexi. Let's make the shirts.
Go away.
I'll pass. Oh no.